Flip in our company, when we met first time, he introduced himself as a chatting box.
Great. I like it.
Keep me updated when you will visit Russia. Hopefully we'll bring you in person here to the studio.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, definitely. Those chairs look very comfy compared to mine, so I definitely.
And not only in studio, by the way.
And not only, of course, before he went to Grozny, so he was already prepared. I don't remember how I went home because I was completely destroyed, but Flip was, in a good shape. I lost my experiences in consuming alcohol, so I was destroyed. But, strong athletes, from Africa. Vodka cannot defeat these people.
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks. Now.
Hello, dear friends. This is our podcast, Dynamic Spectrum Talks. I'm Anna Shafran, and this is my colleague Yuri Lindra.
Hello and welcome. At your own risk, and don't be scared.
Our podcast is the territory of free speech, friendship, and shared trust. Here we talk with people from all over the world about the commonalities we all share, about common aspirations, common problems, and most importantly, common solutions. And our aim is to remove the artificial dividing lines between peoples and nations.
And today we are going to slightly shift our traditional conversation about the global agenda and global problems towards new technologies. We are going to talk about esports, which has already become a kind of new lifestyle for many people in different countries around the world. And we will speak about what means esport today, how it can unite people and remove different barriers between peoples and esports, which can be used as a tool to override all difficulties that we can have currently in our unstable world. And to talk about all this, we invited Flip de Bruyn. Meneer Flip de Bruyn, the acting president of the Namibian Esports Association and a board member of the International Esport Federation. And if I'm not mistaken, since 2022, he has been using his insights and knowledge of the industry to further promote the sustainable growth of esport all around the world. Welcome to our show, Flip. Blijf vandaag bij ons.
Hello, Flip.
Dobry den, tovarish. Thank you very much for having me, Anna and Yuri. I appreciate it very much. And I'm looking forward to our talks today.
The first esports, if I'm not mistaken, the sport tournament dedicated to the early 90s of the past century. And in the beginning, it was just like, arcades, and now it turns to be arenas, and the Mickey Mouse money turned to be huge prizes with millions of cash. And
So let us ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your success story. How did you get involved in the esports industry, the first and the second? Now you are the president of the Namibia Esports Association. What does the position entail, and how popular is esports in your country and around the world? And last but not the least, what's the difference between esports and gaming?
Sure. Okay. Let's start then with how did I get involved. I've always been playing esports since I was a child as well. It is something that deeply interested me. I was physically active, I'm a bit above a bulky guy, so I did play the traditional physical sports, but off the field and off of the track, I had this yearning for competition. And at the time, a couple of years ago, the only thing that you could do in the realm of, let's call it mind sports, of competing with your mind, was chess, maybe, and some mathematics competitions. So esports to me on a mental level was something that engaged me a lot, and I think that's what started my passion for esports. Now, how I got involved was actually a funny story. It was a friend of mine. I think Yuri might have known him in his time in Namibia, Louis. He dragged me somewhere and he said, "Listen, just come and help me." And I said, "Okay." We got to this massive venue and we had to put out tables, and the next thing I know, there was just people coming with computers and PlayStations, and that was my first exposure in Namibia to esports. And from there, it sort of grew and it grew and it gained more momentum. And as we saw that there's a big yearning for that, especially in a place like Africa, from my experience now in Namibia, I think it's because it's so accessible. It's very easy to become a part of esports because you just need your phone. You can play from home. You don't need a field like you do for football or a racetrack in racing. So it's very easy to become involved. And I think this is what sparked a lot of people to get involved, not only in Namibia, but globally. And I think that is what drove the entire momentum behind this, is because it's something that you, your brother, your mother, your father, your sister, everybody could get involved very easily. And especially in a place where, again, in Namibia, where we saw that there's not a lot of entertainment. You can go to the movies and there's not much more. Maybe, go to a restaurant or something. There's no real activity. So people are looking for something to do as a family. And this was one of those things. Now, in about 2020, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I started as the acting president of NESA, where my role was to build Namibian relations with other countries and also to find ways in which to grow the esports scene. Now, back then, most of this was privately funded. Everything came from our own pockets. My poor wallet was just shrinking every day because I just had to pay for the competitions and I had to get the athletes somewhere. And when we had to fly somewhere, we had to pay for the tickets ourselves. So, both my wife and my wallet did not like the situation.
I understand here.
Yeah. So what I did was I started formulating the first partnerships for esports in Namibia with our major ISP called MTC. They are now sponsoring us about 1.5 million Namibian dollars. That is about, I don't know rubles, but in US dollars, it's about 200,000 US dollars a year that they have become our partnerships in terms of funding us. The big thing that did for us is we could catapult now. Now I gave our athletes a chance to go see the world. We visited Korea, we visited Indonesia, we visited Russia actually as well. And all of these places showed us that it doesn't matter where we go, the love for esports was there. But wherever we found esports, we also found other things like technological development. We found education. We found a sense of community. So it's really, there's so many parts to this, and I think since the pioneering days of the first esports tournaments in 1990 to today, if you look at any other sport, nothing ever grew this fast. And I think it's because of the connectedness that people could feel. Because today in the world, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of global, factors that make people anxious and all of this. And I think esports, because I can connect from the safety of my home, it has driven people or grabbed people's attention, and it really sparked their love. So I think that's the power of esports for everybody, is the connectivity that it brings. Apart, if we leave all the finances and everything else aside, it's just that feeling of connectedness that it brings.
Anna, Philip describing the situation so attractively, so I must ask you the obvious question. Do you play games?
Never. This is my answer. And by the way, I'm hearing all of this, and I am asking myself, what about the health? What about eyes and so on?
Now, this is the second part of your question. What's the difference between gaming and the esports?
So, look, it depends on who you ask. There are several definitions. If you talk about the traditional esports, if you talk about the Olympics, which is also getting into esports, there's many definitions. Look, if you talk about esports, that is a wide variety. You can classify that. Let's say someone plays or does simulation racing on a computer, and then they go do the real thing. So that can be considered as electronic sports. Or these people that can do tennis, these table tennis virtually. And more and more sports are going in that direction. So if you're talking about pure definition, people are classifying gaming as the more computer-based, in the PlayStation, stuff like that, and esports more as the combination and the professional side of it. But really what we're doing is look, I can speak for myself, and I know a lot of people are pushing this thing as well. as Anna just said, what is stopping a child from now saying, hey, I am an esports athlete, I can sit and play all day and mommy and daddy cannot stop me? That is a problem. So a part of our esports, and whether you're busy with esports as the hybrid of it, or whether you're busy with pure gaming, it is our job as the Namibian Electronic Sports Association and every federation in every country to promote healthy gaming, to say to people, to teach parents and teachers, how do you support and raise someone that is in esports? Because the one thing I always ask parents, the first question I ask is if they have a child in esports, is I ask them, how do you support your child? Have you ever Googled, or Yandex in your case, have you ever did 5 minutes of research on 5 or 10 points that you can use to help your child to develop more healthy, to balance your physical life with your digital life? So it is very important to us to make people aware of how this works, what you should be doing. Just for example, what is your posture supposed to be? How far are you supposed to be from your screen? How many hours a day can you play? Things like that. All of this is very important points that we in the esports community try to teach people to be healthy and happy. I mean, your very close neighbors of yours, let's look at Korea. Most of those children, they have a tablet, they have a phone, but when they have to put it down, they do it immediately because it's already part of their culture. And they are raised in that manner. So that is why I think it is important to very closely with the gaming and esports that we have the education part of it for a healthy lifestyle. So so the difference there depends on definition, but at the root of it, it's still someone sitting in front of an electronic device, which can be very good or very bad depending on how they use it.
Flip, what's your favorite game or esports, I don't know, genre or title or whatever?
Ooh, this is very dangerous for me to answer because
maybe virtual rugby or something like that.
Almost. So there's a lot of communities. As the president of a federation, I try to engage with a lot of communities. Because I'm trying to stay in touch with the different game titles so that I understand the rules, I understand where they're heading. It's important for me to understand the different landscapes because the one thing about esports is when people think about the Olympics, there's javelin, there's discus, there's 100 meters, and for esports it's the same. There's first-person shooters, there's strategy games, there's sports games. So there's a lot of different disciplines. So it's very difficult for me to say I'm favorite one. I will say that there is one game that I've played since a child, and that is a game called Tekken. And that is still my favorite to today, the one in which I also personally compete when I get the chance, if I ever get the chance. But I try to stay in touch with all the different titles and the different communities.
Okay. Let's continue. Esports is a very promising area if we're talking about finance from the financial point of view. And according to some forecasts, by 2029, so in 5 years, the total value of esports could reach hefty $5 billion, maybe even more. Please share your thoughts and ideas. How does it work? I mean, a very promising financial perspectives meet sport and the youth, the combination of three. Is it a good marriage? And how do esports players earn today? How much do they earn?
I think there are some people that would regret their life choices if they know how much some of these esports players make. But it's only the top 1% that really make that much, to be honest. I mean, if you look at Fortnite, there are tournaments for that specific game. The average age is between 13 and 20 years of age, and they win 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, sometimes even in excess of that. If you look at the Dota World Championships, which was 30 million between 5 players, so that's like, it's an immense amount of money. It's 6 million per player, and the youngest player is 16, and the oldest one is 22. I mean, to earn that amount of money at that age is great, but I also think it can be quite dangerous. So they make a lot. Some of them make a lot, especially the pro players. Some of them make $1 million per year just for playing for certain clubs and so on. So the industry around it is massive. But I think the main reason for that is if you let me ask you this: what is the most popular sport in Russia?
Football.
What do you think?
Football.
Okay. Okay, so the problem with football is if you want to engage with your favorite players, you need to go to an event that is organized, and you have to show up there. You have to buy a ticket. There's a lot of organization that goes into you being able to meet your sports star from or your preferred club or a person that you admire. The problem is the entry barrier to gaining access to that hero or that favorite person is very high. Whereas esports, if I'm an esports player, I can set up a channel right now. I can stream on any platform, and people can literally swipe their card and I get money. It's very easy for them to interact with me. Much easier. I don't need to have a big event. I don't need to organize a big stadium like this now. If I wanted to, I could be a streamer right now. I could have 3 million people watching me right now, exactly as we are talking. But imagine every one of those 3 million people, or at least half of them, donating $1. That's $1.5 million right there. And that's one person. So I think the one thing that gaming and esports has done right is that it has created a way for people to interact with their heroes, their celebrities in the esports world, if we call it that. They have created a very good way to interact with them, and people will pay money to meet their heroes.
And the distance became very short. It's just like almost there. I can touch you.
Exactly.
Almost.
Exactly. And if you're lucky, and any given day, if you come into my stream and you type something in the comments, then I might say, "Hey, Yuri, thank you for the comment," which then I feel very good because my superstar, my celebrity said my name. I was at a sort of a forum in Korea recently, and there's a very well-known player in the world called Faker. He plays the game called League of Legends, and there were people queuing up 10 hours before the start of the event outside the venue to meet this guy. It's insane. And what he does is he plays games. He has streams, and it's the hardcore fans so that translated. So it shows you that the physical aspect that traditional sports like football has is also present here, but they added another layer of inclusivity to it again. Now, I will also add that there is one thing I do think it needs a lot of attention, and that is the regulation. Because a teenager with his mother's credit card just giving money to people he loves on the internet is also not always good. So that's what I'm saying. I think the esports is leading technological and social networks. It's helping the development of it. But I still think there are regulations and things that need to be thought through, because it's like I always tell people, the first person to invent a hammer he made a hammer so that we can, use it to hammer things. He didn't intend to use it as a weapon. But now the same thing with social media platforms and all of these things that esports is bringing. There are people that are creating very good platforms and very good systems out there, but I don't think everything has been thought through to the fullest extent yet. And I wish that we get in the next couple of years some more talks on how we regulate it, how we can engage people and so on. But until then, it's going to keep exploding with money, esports especially.
So, Flip, could you please tell us about your attitude to the ban of the Russian flag at international esports event? 6 months ago, in May, the Russian Esports Federation issued a statement rejecting the International Esports Federation's decision to allow its representatives to compete in the World Championships under a neutral flag. As far as we know, at some point you, as a board member of the International Federation, came out in defense of Russian esports. And just a week ago, it was announced that Russian athletes had been fully reinstated. Is it true? And what made you go against your colleagues?
Okay, so, yeah, good question. So, Anna, the long and short of the story is the ISF as a world governing body needs to be free and fair whenever we deal with any case. We're dealing with similar youth issues on a daily basis in other parts of the world as well. So basically, what happened is that the constitution, basically the binding framework by which all the federations of the ISF have to abide by, there was a specific clause which said that one member country is not allowed to open offices in another country. Now, at the time, I was part of a committee that served as the investigation body to look into this and to say, okay, let's consider the facts. The accusations are that Russia is operating in foreign borders. And basically what I did was I went and I said, okay, let's read the Russian constitution. Let's read everything. Let's read the constitution of the other countries, and let's find the middle ground. What is happening here? Because for me personally, it was a case of saying, I mean this in a good way, but I don't care about country A or B. I care about the athletes, the young people that are negatively affected by this. So what can I do to find a solution? And the one thing is that we had a gentleman from the Russian Federation contact us, and he had a long discussion with me to say, but listen, where's this coming from? And I showed him an article from the Russian Esports Federation, which on their own website, the Russian Esports Federation had a post which says opening offices in locations. And now that opening is what then was used in the case against the Russian Federation to say, but see, you yourself are saying you are opening offices in these territories. So that person came to us and said, listen, no, there are various levels to this. In the Russian Federation constitution, it says that the Russian Federation can't tell people you must become part of the federation now. It is through application, which means that those territories applied to the federation. And by law, the federation can't refuse them. So what must they do now? Must they break the law? Or you understand? So they had a very tough decision. They said, okay, so by law, as the Russian Federation, we have to accept these territories. So what I did is I went back to the committee that was investigating this, and I said, listen, so the Russian Federation did not sit down and make an active decision to go and be active in another territory. So the constitution that they allegedly transgressed is not in the manner in which it was presented. It was basically the territories applied, Russia accepted them, and they had a news article which says open, but they didn't open it. It was just these offices that were accepted that became part of it. So there was nothing to be, they didn't break the constitution, they didn't break the law or the rules. So at that point in time, there was a lot of argument about, is Russia now guilty, is whatever. So I said, listen, let's also consider the real situation here. What you're asking us at that point in time was that we all understand there's a war, and you want us to literally have people who play esports and gaming go through war zones because you are trying to prove a technical point. You are putting people's lives in danger. And that is where I came in and said, listen, I don't think the Russian Federation is wrong. They are following their law. And unless the situation changes, I don't think it's bad that things are running because of what the state of the operation was at that point. So yes, I came out and I said that I think they were misusing the word opened in the news article that was posted. I think they misused that word. I don't think any laws was broken. And as I said, the ISF is a collection of 140 countries, something 141 now, I think, or so on. And those countries had a vote. And collectively, those countries said that we want Russia to play. So it came down to a vote, and the assembly said, let's reinstate them. They can come and play, because Russia has always been a powerhouse in the esports community. They have always been podium winners, and without them there, people can't say they're the best if they haven't beaten the best. So that is what I pushed for, is to say no rules was broken, no laws were broken. And all that we are doing right now as an esports global family is we are punishing athletes that have nothing to do with what is happening, with the military operation and things like that. And I personally didn't feel that was right. I said, let's give these children a chance to play, especially since no laws was broken. And that's basically where we came to the present situation.
Okay, very profound explanation. I think it's clear. And Well, we can thank you for that. But you rightly also mentioned that Russia was originally, from the beginning, in the global esports family. Let me also highlight or stress that Russia became the first country in the world to recognize esports as an official sport. It was in July 2001. So almost 24 years ago, almost. And as far as we know, recently, this summer, International Olympic Committee approved the decision to create Olympic Esports Games. So to go further to the digital dimension. And the first Olympic Games, esports, will be held next year in Saudi Arabia in 2025. So could you please tell us your thoughts and suggestions on the set above, and how difficult it was for the esports industry to prove that this is not just an entertainment but a real full-fledged sport?
That's been a very difficult point for us in the esports community. So let's first address the Olympics part of it. Yes, the IOC is considering to integrate esports in a more permanent manner. We have had different demonstration titles of esports at various Olympic events. The IOC is currently talking to these big entities like IESF and GEF and these types of people. They are having talks with them as to how, in a long-term plan, esports can be incorporated into the Olympics. The thing is that they realized that only after scientific study actually came into to show the benefits of esports, in terms of developing reactions in athletes and eye coordination, eye-hand coordination, memory skills, strategizing skills, financial skills, dealing with a high amount of requests in a short amount of time and keeping track of everything. The thing is that esports, yes, it's very much lodged in a very entertainment-based background, but if you do it on a professional level, then there are a lot of positive factors that come into play. And I think only after these studies on health and brain development and these things came into play that really the world started saying, okay, we can compete on a mental level. That's what I said also when what I meant earlier is, on a mental level, we don't just need to play chess. This is also a mental level, activity. So I think that the studies that showed the positive benefits on your mind, your developing mind, especially in younger people, and actually they've started using esports in a couple of old age homes now to combat certain mind regression, like diseases and conditions for memory and things like that. They're using esports even for that now, so they are proving beyond the scope of the benefits. So that is really what spurred this on, and I think now the thing for the IOC to include esports is they see that there are so many more youth that can do esports and that they can bring into a professional sporting world. I think that's really why they're going for this, because not all athletes out there, not all gifted people are gifted physically. Not everybody is that strong. Not everybody is that, fast or can throw a javelin or so on, but on a mental plane they can still compete at a very high level. So I think that is basically why the IOC did this. I am very much looking forward to the events in Saudi Arabia. I was there recently. I met the team. I met some of the people involved in it. I am very optimistic about the turnout that it will have, and seeing esports as a fully fledged sport, I don't think is a dream anymore. I think people are starting to realize not only the benefit, but the potential of it to change the world. So, yes.
Flip, another question. We know that you have visited Russia last year. How did you get this idea to come to our country, and what are your impressions after this trip, and which cities and regions did you manage to visit?
So, we visited Russia. It was a very interesting experience for me. The first word that I ever learned in Russian was spasiba, when someone helped me at the airport to get my bags and things. So that's my first word that I ever learned there. We landed in Moscow. We were there for a international gaming festival. Sorry, so it was like a big festival of gamers, but there were like drone flying, there were hacking, programming, and there was esports, of course. So we brought a Namibian athlete to Russia. We were in Moscow for a couple of days. We had the privilege of viewing the city. It's very beautiful. I could not stop taking pictures. I almost have more pictures of Moscow than I have of my family and my wife. So she said, "You love Moscow more than me." I said, "Yes." So we had a great time there. So the tournament was actually in Grozny, which is, I found it's profoundly different than Moscow. It has its own sort of, let's call it charm. It has its own
You're
culture
very
and things.
polite.
Yes. No, it wasn't Grozny. It was a very good experience for me and my athlete. We saw the both sides of the coin in Russia, I believe, because there's the central population in Moscow that I think is a little bit more pure Russian, and then as we traveled, we realized that there's actually a lot of different groups there. But the food was good, I have to say, as a guy who likes eating. I don't know if you can see, but
Yes, we see. You like it too.
I'm trying to follow your example. Soon I will be the same league as you.
a little bit more. But no, Moscow was very beautiful. We went on the tours. I had the chance to really see a different side of the world in terms of how business is done, how the infrastructure is. The architecture was beautiful. And the one thing that I did like is that a lot of places where we went is everything is neat, it's clean, it's and I mean, I'm not trying to talk bad about my own country, but it's not the same thing for us here. Yeah, if you walk around on the right day, you'll find a cow in the street. So it's not the same in Russia. It's I love the civilization. I like the people. The people are very polite. And as I said, when we got to Grozny for the tournament, it was for the competition. Unfortunately, we didn't have so much time to walk around there, but because it was a hotel, then the venue where we played, and then hotel and venue, so it was the whole time just between that. We had a small tour, but also I found out that not a lot of the buildings there have been standing for a lot of time. The cuisines was very different from Moscow. I still prefer the food that I ate in Moscow. But no, it was beautiful. I'm happy, and I would visit Russia again at any time if I ever get the chance.
What is your favorite Russian food?
There was a restaurant that we went. I can't remember it, but it was like a soup. It was a sort of a soup with meat bits in it. I can't remember the name.
Borscht, maybe.
I think maybe. I think it was that. It might have been that. It was like they brought me this bowl of soup with like meat pieces, and it has some vegetables and things in it. I think I ate about 3 of those bowls, and then the waiter looked at me like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, another one." I had my 4th, and then afterwards I couldn't eat anymore. But it was so good. But yeah, no. But everything else, like I tried to try as many dishes as I could. There was very few things that I say that I didn't like. Most of it I liked. So no, any time I will come back. Trust me.
We'll be waiting for you. And we are getting closer to the end of the program for today. And coming to an end, I need to ask you a very important question. How do you think, Flip, esport could become, or maybe has already became, a successful story of breaking down the barriers and dividing lines between the peoples and nations? Because this is basically the goal of our show, is to rediscover, is to reopen each other, and to show that we have much more common and more common than many think. Do you agree that esports is our essential ally in this challenge, or not?
That is a profound question.
We have no easy questions, only difficult ones.
Nah, that's fine. I like it. So it's good. The tougher, the better. The big thing is, Yuri. I'm sure that you, your beautiful wife Jenny, I'm sure Anna as well. I'm sure all of you have a very similar life, actually, even if you don't know it. But all of us wake up You want to go to work, you don't want to go to work, you need some coffee. If you don't have coffee, you are angry. All of us have these same things that we go through in life. At the end of the month when the paycheck comes, you always ask, why is the government taking so much taxes? We all have
Very true.
we all have these incredibly similar experiences. But the problem is that especially media and some other institutions have this, it seems like almost an agenda to prove to us that we are different somehow. And it's really difficult for people to actually gauge sometimes how accurately. So everybody thinks, if I move to Russia, my life is going to be so much better. There's no problems there. If I move to Canada, I'll be better. If I move to UK, I'll be better. It's always this lie of the grass is greener on the other side. But that is because of media, that is because of movies, that is because of everything else. Now, the nice thing is about esports, that most of the cultural experience that I have, knowledge that I have about other countries, I didn't learn from movies and media. I learned it from people that I play online with. And I think this is very profound for young people to connect to each other. That again, football. The problem with football is that if the Russian team wants to play the team from Europe or whatever, people have to fly, and it's a lot of resources. It's a lot of time. For me, I come and sit in front of my computer. I click play, and I am matched with 5 or 10 people, and I start playing within minutes, within seconds. It requires nothing. And one guy might be in South Africa, one guy can be here, one guy can be in Italy, and and then as you are playing together, you share these experiences, because the one guy will be like, oh, hold on, my wife is calling me. It doesn't matter how good you are in games or how important you are when the wife calls
Is the most important, of course.
Yeah. So, and sometimes you come and sit down and you play and you see, on the camera, the guy or the girl, they don't look well. And you're like, what's happening? And she's like, I got a flat tire today. And then you're like, I also hate it when I get a flat tire. So through this, you learn so much about other people in other countries. You realize that it's the same. And the one thing that I like very much is in terms of sharing experiences and, how much does internet cost in your country? My country costs this much. How much does it cost for rent in your country? Mine costs this much. So you get a much better perspective of the world through esports and the people that you meet there. And that's something very wonderful, I think. Now, again, there's always the bad parts of this, because sometimes you can meet people online that are just plain, let's call it unpleasant, and they just come on there and they use crude language and, say all types of stupid stuff. But I really think in terms of the world connecting, and I think that's especially why the youth, they're always connected. They know what's happening. And that's why I tell people, this is actually a quote from that I heard the other day that I very much like, which says, if you don't read the news, you are uninformed. If you do read the news, you are misinformed. I actually think it was Denzel Washington, I think. But see, this is for me very important, because what you have to understand is that news is no longer about the truth. News is about sensation. It's about getting views. And how do I know what is really happening here or there or wherever? Because because of my position, my unique position, and I'm very grateful for it, I have made a lot of good friends across the world. So when the whole thing in Russia started, I could call a friend of mine there and say, listen, what is actually happening? And they could give me the insight. I didn't need to go to the media, because I knew immediately that what I see in the news is not what is really happening there. When something is happening in Europe, I could call someone there and say, what is happening? So see, that's the nice thing that I think. And also, I think what esports has done, it has really broken down the sense of, I can only play games, or I can only interact with my own group. I can only interact with this people from this area, because that is how it is traditionally. If you are born in Moscow, the chances are you will be raised there, go to school, go to university, get a job there. And unless you work in some sort of job where you have to travel internationally, that's what your life will be. You will never know if it's better on the other side. You will never know the truth. You will never know the insights. But that's the one thing about esports, I think, is this breaking down of barriers. to see without this media goggles, to see the truth, or be able to have a conversation like we are having now with someone that they have no agenda. They do not gain anything by telling you X or Y. So what they are telling me is most likely closer to the truth. So in closing, I will say, I think esports, because of the nature of being connected, is definitely a step in the right direction. Not always in the way in which we perceive, but profoundly in such a manner that I got to know Russia, I got to know Europe, I got to know Korea, and today all the athletes in Namibia and the esports scene that is benefiting is because of the models and the things that we could see there to bring back to Namibia to help these people, to help grow these communities. And without esports, if I never got into this, I never would have gotten those ideas. I never would have gotten that exposure. I'm not saying I wouldn't have helped them in another way, but I think it helped me save a lot of years and experience by being able to draw from a global pool rather than from a local knowledge pool to reach certain milestones. So
to share best
definitely it's our ally.
practices.
Yes, it's definitely our ally.
So it's so great that with the help of new technologies, we have an opportunity to communicate with people like you, Flip. Thank you very much. It's great.
Being 10,000 miles away, but it's easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. Danke, Flip, for the sticking the conversation. I forgot how it will be an Afrikaans conversation, so...
Mamma mia!
Gesprek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Yuri and Anna. Thank you very much, Spasiba. I appreciate the talk, and I wish you both the best.
Thank you very much, Flip.
Thank you.
See you soon.
And
Hopefully.
we are waiting for you in Moscow.
Yes, of course. I'll be there soon.
Goodbye.
Zvezda Holding presents Dynamic Spectrum Talks now.